Hi, and welcome to Power of the Network. I'm your host, Tim Locker, Vice President of Broadband here at CBM. We've got a real special episode. This is actually our first contractor guest that we've had on the show, Mr. Matt Wells with Bob Hole Inc. He's an underground contractor here in the Midwest out of Kansas. These guys do tremendous work, and they've got a lot of relationships with some customers that we share as well. And so I'm anxious to get his take on, as a contractor in the industry. So I look forward to this conversation. Thanks for joining us. Matt, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate you getting into the city here, coming in. I know we had a little parking issue this morning, but
it's great parking in Kansas City. Love the public parking, taking a redneck from the country into the city.
Yeah. Did you have to download the app when you got here, or did?
No, I kind of knew where I was going. We've stayed here before for the Big 12 tournament, so parking wasn't an issue then because we had a reserved spot, but. Yeah, got a little snow still out there.
That's one thing I tell you. There's a lot of snow here. There was a little video I saw on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, where this kid was snowboarding down down the streets of downtown here. It looked pretty awesome. But
I would say if the police drive by out here, they'll get a chuckle because I put it in 4-wheel drive and pulled up over a snow mound to park because I got tired of looking for a spot to park.
Yeah. Well, we apologize for that. But thanks again anyway. So, it's fun. We've been doing these shows for a while now, and you're the first contractor, underground contractor that we've had on.
I might be the last, too. You never know.
Well, we'll see how it goes. But, so I'm interested to, just kind of get into that dynamic and get your perspective. In our role, we're obviously trying to, spec product and sell product to the same customers that you're working for.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, I think it's interesting just to see, how we work together and maybe understand a little bit more of, what some of your challenges are, and some of the tougher things you're up against. So maybe we understand each other's roles a little bit better. But, so I guess what would be one of your biggest challenges?
Probably one of the biggest challenges for us as a contractor is finding labor.
Yeah.
Finding the labor help to actually do it. Not everybody wants to. We're glorified ditch diggers. We got fancy names, but that's what we are. We dig in the ditch. We
put pipe in the ground.
Put pipe in the ground. We install cable. We bring people the internet, and everybody, you can toss it up, polish it up. But that's what we do. And sometimes that requires you to work on the road. You're away from your family.
Yeah.
We cover a lot of those expenses, but it's still it's not what everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
And if you are married or we have single guys that are dating, I always tell them, you better make sure you find a good one.
Yeah.
Because I got a good one. We've been married, but she'd kill me right now. I think it's 22 years. Going to be 23. But, she's put up with a lot of crap to allow us to do what we do. And I'm a president of this thing by default, I think.
Is that right?
Well, I worked for him in the early 90s when I was going to college.
Okay.
The old man that started it was named Bob, and his wife Carlene started it in 79, and they had 2 sons that helped build it up, so to speak.
Sure.
And he got cancer there in the early 90s. And he kept calling.
Bob did?
Bob got cancer.
Okay.
First time, I think it was like 92, 93. And I'd only work summers. And, and he'd offer me a full-time job a couple different times. And I'm like, I'm not coming back to Redneckville.
Yeah.
And
where did your dreams have you? At that point in your
time,
life, where did your head have you placed?
In more of a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Just there's nothing to do. So I live in a town. Well, I live in the country, but my area that, we might have, Nemaha County maybe has 4,000, 5,000 people. I don't know. I'd be at 6. It's not very big.
For the county.
For the whole county. My town has like 600. I live out in the country, and we live in the populated area. We can see like 4 houses.
Yeah.
All within a mile of us. So
as long as they got their lights on at night.
Yeah. Some of them, they got hellacious Christmas displays.
Yeah.
It's like Griswolds on steroids.
Yeah.
But, it's very rural area. but we're lucky enough in the area I live in is the exchange is Blue Valley.
Blue Valley telephone.
You probably
Yep.
know
Yep.
Blue Valley.
Yep.
So we have fiber to the home already, and we've had it for several years. And my partner that owns part of this company, he lives 5-6 miles outside Topeka
Okay.
on Carlson Road, and it was a dead spot for the longest time.
Yeah.
No internet. They had a satellite, and their speed was like 2 to 3 meg.
Oh gosh.
I mean, we had better dial up back in the 90s,
Yeah.
than what these guys have in 2023 now.
Yeah.
But Wamego Telephone, through some grants and whatnot, was able to bring broadband internet down that line to not only get Kenny, but to get several neighbors.
Yeah.
And Kenny bought his first smart TV last fall.
Oh goodness.
Imagine putting that into perspective. I
Yeah.
mean, he doesn't know what the internet can all do. He's still kind of learning. His kids go to Rossville, and they're a pretty good sized school in terms compared to us. But I mean, they already have the internet there in Rossville. Wamego went into Rossville probably 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, I mean, I got a way off base there.
No, it's all good. No, I was just, you'd mentioned, you didn't want to go back, nothing to do. So I just kind of had a vision of trying to see where your head was at that young age.
Well, at the young age, I was more worried about
having fun.
Yeah, let's put it that way. I was more worried about chasing tail and having fun.
Yeah.
But I ran a bar. When I first got out of college, I ran a bar. Had a heck of a good time out there.
Yeah.
Realized that, man, this isn't going to be a good deal if I keep going down this
Long
road,
term.
because it's
You were also a patron of said bar that you
yeah,
were
well,
running.
yeah. I mean, I blew my knee out there on grand opening weekend playing basketball outside, and I come back about a year later, and I was like, I need a job. And the owner's like, why do you need a job? I was like, I blew my knee out here. I'm in here 4 nights a week. I need to cut it down. Just give me 1 night a week off, and what I make in tips and what I make here will pay for the other 2 nights that I'm here.
Yeah.
And he felt sorry for me, I guess, gave me a job. And, a few months later, me and another guy was assistant manager of the place. And fast forward to the end of that semester, and I had a job to be the next Al Bundy, shoe salesman.
Nice.
Up in Norfolk, Nebraska. Accepted its position, came home and told him, I give him a 4-week notice.
Yeah.
He said, you're not going anywhere. I was like, well, I don't think you can match it. And he did. And so I stuck around Hayes, Kansas for a while.
Yeah.
We was going to put one of these bars in another spot in Manhattan, and things kind of fell through with the owners that were going to do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of started looking, and, this whole time since the early 90s, Bob got cancer again. He beat it in 92, 93. He got it again in 95, I think it was. And Richard, his son, who was the president before he retired, he kept calling me like every quarter. I think they had a meeting with somebody every quarter, and he got out of that meeting and be like, hey, Matt, you want a job? I'm like, nope, not coming back to Redneck Town. Can't do it. I mean, I like to be able to go get chili cheese nachos and chocolate milk at 2:00 in the morning if you wanted to.
Convenience.
You can't do that in Centralia, Kansas.
Yeah.
Can't do that in Seneca, Kansas, I don't think. But that was one of the things that was the drawback for me. And then what made me come back was just kind of not liking what we were doing anymore.
Yeah.
And what I was going to do was use BHI or Bob Hole Inc. as a stepping stone to go to something else, because they was wanting somebody. Bob at that time, I was 99 when I came back full time. Dad had just passed away.
Yeah.
Supposed to start work that Monday. He died the Friday before, and I'm like, damn, man, that's kind of bad luck. And Richard's like, just take as much time as you want. I was like, it's life, man. Things happen. Yeah. So I'm going to take a week later to start. And first place we drove down to was Lacine, Kansas, south here at Kansas City at Peoples. We had a job going down there. Kind of seen what we were doing, and I was like, no, we updated a little bit of equipment since the last time I was here, because I think I worked for them from like 92, 3, 4, and they did some work out around the Hayes area in 95, and that's when I graduated, was in December of 95. And, we did a lot of talking back and forth, I guess, and finally got fed up one day because I started running a restaurant, and labor issues with that are incredible because you have
worse than contracting, you think, or
well, there's a lot more drama. You
yeah.
got a lot of waitresses and waiters, and you know, people don't show up, and you're trying to cover, and you ended up making a couple good friends cover a lot of crap for you that wasn't, you know, their job, and just tried hiring the assistant managers and the guys.
Kind of what happens. You get a handful of good folks, and then they're doing everything.
And if you don't take care of them, I mean, that's the biggest thing. You don't take care of them. Well, what happens? They look someplace else.
Yeah.
But I come back in '99. Bob Hull is still there, and he made the comment of, "The hell you coming back here for this for?" I was like, "Well, I just need to get out of Hayes.
Yeah, time
for a change." Came back, and he's like, "This job's not going to last that long. You know, how much fiber do you think we can put in the ground?" And I was like, "Well, one of them fancy magazines you got there, I noticed they're talking about fiber to the home in 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, that was clear back in '99. We put our first fiber to the home in the ground 2004 or 5. I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 5. Blue Valley did some work. They just bought some Sprint exchanges, and they wanted to loop them in with their legacy exchanges they already had. So we put a little fiber in to connect them. And then anybody along that way got fiber, and you know, it was a learning experience for the engineering company and for us, because we're all used to putting in copper, which, you know, for the most part was pretty cake. If you cut a copper, you just fix a copper, and you cut a fiber, you kind of start over, or you pay a lot of money to splice it. However it works, you know, a little better planning's got to go into it. And ever since then, we just took off with it.
You guys do your own splicing, or do
we have a subcontractor? So go back to the labor issue for us. What do we do for labor? If I can't find it, I try to find the best subcontractors that I feel I can find. I have you've seen that show Meet the Fockers, right?
Yeah.
You get the circle of trust. Yep. I have that. I got trust issues probably. So if you get in my circle of trust, then I got, I got one guy that does a lot of town work for us. I don't think he's bid any work in the last, I think this is his 19th year in business.
Yeah.
And he's worked for us the whole time. He started out as a drop contractor, moved him over to a town contractor, and he's grown to a pretty good sized contractor.
Yeah.
He lives a stress-free life. He has a big old chunk of red hair and full beard and no gray. And I'm like, but he doesn't have to find any work either, because we just keep him busy. But then you also have a boring contractor that's been with us since 06. A couple drop guys. I brought one drop guy on here back. The most recent was probably in 2020. COVID,
Yeah.
Wow.
Were you guys able to work through that?
So we had a job with a large company. We bid our largest job ever in 2020, only to have it shut down 5 days before we were supposed to start plowing by a countywide ban. And in our area where I live at, we didn't take COVID maybe as serious as what some did.
Sure.
We just wanted to work. And we were going to be outside. Well, I don't care if somebody got a vaccine or not. I just wanted to go to work. And if I get sick, I'll take care of it. But, there's certain people that needed probably to have those things. I lost one of our splicers, Wayne Gibson. He got COVID. So I don't take it jokingly, because we lost a heck of a slicer when we lost Wayne Gibson, and it threw his brother-in-law who runs it now, Greg, and his son Luke into a pretty good pickle, because all of a sudden, a lot of things that Wayne did, Greg's stepping into. But when I first came here in '99, the old man, Bob, told me, "Don't you lose those guys. Best splicer we ever had." And, to this day, we always use those. So our circle of trust with those guys
goes way back.
Yeah. I mean, it was before I came back to work here. We have this past year, I probably brought on the most subs I've ever brought on, trying out new people.
Yeah.
Some may or may not stick around.
Is that hard for you?
Yeah.
Just emotionally to
not
give
so
them
much
the chance, or just hard
I like
because
to
of
give
the new
everybody a
challenge?
second chance, because everybody screws up at some point. God knows if they had police cameras and stuff on back or these cell phones like we have now,
Yeah.
my ass would have been locked up a long time ago. But yeah, lots of dumb things people do when they're young. So you try to give people second opportunities, but with the way regulations can be on some insurance,
Yeah.
if you don't have a driver's license, it makes it real tough to hire you.
Yeah.
But we've bent the rules, so to speak, and hired people. We just got to sign a form basically that
Yeah.
tells them that they can't drive any of our stuff. But our circle of trust with subcontractors, it goes out to like even the people that we work for. So like Walmigo, for example, we've had a relationship with them. Whenever I worked in the early 90s, we were doing work with them. A whole different team of management down there and different engineering companies, but I remember doing work for Walmigo Telephone. We did work for Blue Valley when I was there. We did work for JBN when I was there. So a lot of them, those three customers right there, we currently have projects with them right now.
Yeah. 30 years later.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know if it's hard to maintain it. I think if we do a good job, you hire good employees and have good subcontractors, and just everybody knows when they work for us, if they're a sub, they know what to expect from us, and we have a certain way we want it done.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to do it that way, after about the second time, there won't be a third, because first time, shame on you. Second time, shame on us, and get the hell out of here on the third one, because we don't like to mess around with it. And our clients know that we have in the past 3 to 4 years, we've started to ease up on some of the parameters that we always held true and dear, because the engineering companies would always tell us, we got to be 42 inches. Well, in this day and age where they're getting grant money, it's all about, we got to get this in the ground. Well, you're in rock. Do you really want to put that in the ground at 30 inches deep or 24 inches deep?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to us. It's just, what piece of equipment are we going to need to do your project?
Yeah.
And so and
at what cost, obviously.
Well, right. I mean, the deeper it goes in the ground in rock, obviously, the more it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And to us, it's more time consumption. Obviously, it takes a lot longer to go through it. Sometimes it's beneficial to skip over, if it's a drop, but it's all about what phone company wants what, and knowing what your client wants is probably the biggest thing, and making sure that the engineering understands what they want, and the communication between the three of us is probably the key to anything getting done.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're arguing with the phone guys or arguing with the engineering guys, well, then you're spinning wheels instead of, getting something done.
Yeah. You mentioned the time. I got to believe that, time is probably one of the biggest impacts, on your business.
Yeah. I mean, every job that, I wouldn't say every job, because we don't bid a lot of work. We negotiate a lot of work. We've got a pretty good client, but every now and then we go out and we bid one. And, they put out what they want in the job based off of what an engineering company's probably telling them. And, Google is great, but Google Earth, sometimes I'd like to, take that site down.
It's not entirely accurate.
Because we start drawing stuff off Google Earth rather than actually putting feet on the ground and looking at it. And I understand situations like right now, if you try to go drive down some of the roads where we're working at, there's still snowpack shut. You get 17 inches of snow, it limits how much you can drive down certain roads. Google Earth allows you to, sometimes walk down these roads back where I live at. And if it's not a highway, you probably aren't walking down it. In back roads, a lot of them don't have it, but some of them do. And so they get a little, I won't say lazy, but it's harder to see what that depth looks like in 2D versus if you actually took out there to see it, So it's hard to justify. It's better than what they had before, but sometimes I think people rely on it a little bit too much. And engineering can't keep up with the amount of work that's going on right now, just like contractors can't keep up. everybody wants it done right away. And we come to Matt's meeting, and I cringe when we come because you're going to run into 3 or 4 people like, hey, man, you busy? No, we're sitting around twiddling our thumbs.
Yeah,
playing
got
pitch.
nothing to do.
Yeah, we're busy. We don't really.
Do you guys shut down in the winter?
If the frost gets deep enough in the ground, right now we're shut down due to snow.
Yeah.
We got like 3 projects with Walmigo, and all of them got snow.
Yeah.
That's the drawback when you work in one area too much. You might have too much snowfall and it's not spread out enough.
Yeah. We didn't, all the snow that we've got down here, I'm up in Iowa, and we missed it. We had a few inches up there before all the snow hit down south here, but everything we've had down here totally missed us. So
really,
yeah,
we have quite a bit of snow still.
But the frost is getting there. It's
getting
cold.
I moved some snow off handholds and off a couple pond cabinets so our splicers could do something this week. I mean, that's construction, but in my eyes, it's not putting cable in the ground, so it's a different type of construction. But we moved that, and underneath those 3-foot drifts, the ground's not even froze yet. It's mud.
Yeah.
So when those 3-4 foot drifts do melt, it's going to be muddy. And we get the Arctic blast coming in this weekend. That'll be fun because next 2 days it's in the 40s. We're going to melt a lot of snow. Yeah. And then we're going to turn around and refreeze. So the frost is going to go on the ground. Right. So you freeze that back in, and you're like, at what point does it make sense to shut down?
Yeah.
And if
just from a cost perspective, you can't maintain enough production.
Well, our jobs have so many days in them. A lot of times, if we get engineering involved, if our client gets engineering involved, most of the time they have some days associated with it.
Yeah.
Certain clients don't even know because engineering can't keep up with what's going on. We're doing I'll give you an example. Walmigo, Sean over there, I'm like, hey, you got any unit totals so I know what to order? Just keep showing up to work. That's what he said. Just keep showing. You're not going anywhere. I'm like, okay, and then from our side, I got our accountant looking at me going, what's your forecast like this year? I was like,
I don't know.
Busy? It's a hurricane? Hell, I don't know how busy. I mean, we just do what we can do. We get a Google overlay map with some different colors on there. It looks all nice and pretty like a Christmas tree, but in reality, it's really what those guys say, hey, we need to get this area done. This is the deadline date. And we start talking at those periodically throughout while we have I wouldn't say we have weekly meetings, but if I don't see WTC about once a month, he usually calls to make sure that,
that you're okay.
Yeah. You're not leaving me, are you? I was like, no. I mean, we continuously try to keep people down there, but I mean, they got a lot going on from a construction side.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, everybody does. And the time thing, you just try to manage it best you can. Obviously, you put a little more priority maybe towards some of those jobs that have a deadline date in days. But, when the weather hits, the deadline days are forfeited because weather shuts you down, Mother Nature. So you just kind of take it with a grain of salt and move on.
Yeah. What is it like working for CBM? Our culture is built around our ESOP. Employee ownership is something that we talk about every day. We empower our employees to make decisions, do what's right for their customers, do what's right for our manufacturers, and really, truly have an impact in our company. We've currently got some openings. If you're interested in working for a top quality rep firm here in the Midwest, we do have some openings. Go to our website and click on the careers tab, and you can see what we have available. Reach out to us here at cbmrep.com. I mean, it sounds like your business is a lot like ours in terms of just how important relationships are.
Oh, 100%.
I
mean, I'm sure you guys, you don't have a good relationship with the people that are buying the products that you represent. Well, somebody's probably looking for another representative company,
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. Relationships not only with suppliers or clients. I mean, your employees too, because I mean, from our side of it, we range anywhere from 12 to maybe 23, 24. I think the most we've ever had was 39 employees. Mm-hmm. But you're only as good as that last person. I mean, your employees make who you are. It's not, what Bob Hole started a long time ago, Richard kind of kept going, and we kept going. We tweaked a few things here and there. I mean, because when I come to work there in 99, we need about 150 miles every year, or we need about $2 million worth of work every year.
Yeah.
Well, that wouldn't fly right now. I mean,
yeah.
First off, phone companies would love it if they could get 150 miles done and only cost them $2 million. Those days have long passed. But it's it's just one of those things that you do the work, hopefully you make a profit at the end of it. You spread it around a little bit, and when you have a lot of subcontractors, obviously you're not going to be as profitable internally. But you're trying to keep your clients happy. So like we get really lucky and negotiate a lot of work. I don't know if you call it luck or skill or just they're hard up and they call us. I mean, we've been around for a little while. We do a good job. I mean, I like to think that we got a pretty good reputation out there, but it's hard making everybody happy. I'm sure there's somebody down a road, that we dug over in the right of way and knocked a tree over or took some brushes out or something. And they probably was like, man, I hate that crew. I hate that crew. They did such a terrible job. But then there's other times that, you always hear about those situations. Sometimes what you don't hear about is these guys did a great job. They went above and beyond. So it's good to hear those. They're, obviously few and far between. But
I mean, one of my questions on the contractors was, you go back to the circle of trust.
Right.
Is my concern would be, okay, them just then cutting you out and developing, that direct relationship with, people you've been working for 30 years. So.
Right. Well, we've had some subs our size or bigger. I've heard through the grapevine that tried to do that with some of our good clients.
Yeah.
And our relationship was good enough with those clients that
it didn't work.
Yes, they told them no. We're using BHI, and from our side, I mean, at that point, you're like, you got a really good relationship, and whatever you do, you don't want to lose that relationship with that client.
Yeah.
And that's some of the way it was. The subs that's been with us for over 15 years, we got a couple of them that way.
Well, it sounds like those contractors or subs are really more part of the family.
They are. They are.
Too.
They are
So
100% part of our family. Matter of fact, I had a guy out of Southeast Kansas that was my last drop contractor that I brought on, and he got married last summer. And when I went down there to Fort Scott to his wedding, and him and his wife were sitting there, and I put my hands around both of them. I said, well, welcome to the crazy-ass family that we have here. As long as you want to work and your work ethic, because your work ethic goes a long ways, especially, and it's not an 8-to-5 job, and that's why people don't like, sometimes they don't want to come to work for us. We, during the summer times or spring times, we get to shop at 6:30, and we might shut down at 6:30 at night. It might be 7:30 at night.
Depends where you're at.
Right. If you're on the road, and the only thing you got to do is go back to a hotel room or keep them out of the bar. Well, I mean, if it's raining, it's hard enough to keep them out of the bar.
Yeah.
And then they got to get back up. But there's drawbacks to working on the road, and there's positives too. I mean, work on the road, you got your crew there for the whole week. We come home on the weekends. If you're working close to home, it's nice because your family gets to see you. You get to attend some of your child's events if you've got a family. My oldest daughter missed out on a lot of things because Dad was gone a lot, which that's luckily we've been busy enough. My wife is PRN position, so she works as needed at a hospital, which makes it a lot nicer because without her to fill in those gaps, Dad's a real jerk. I'm still a jerk a lot of time, but I mean, at least I'm not quite.
At least they're not raising themselves.
Right. And the subcontractors is the same way. I mean, some of the guys that are our subs used to be employees of us back in the 90s. And I'm all for someone trying to make a better life for themselves and go out and do it, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to take that risk of jumping in, and even if it's you went and bought a $50,000 drop plow back in the day, and you started putting drops in, and that's what one of the guys did. Him and his dad. His dad was a retired school teacher, and I look at Jim. I'll be like, why are you doing this? He's a Vietnam vet, he's got to go to
You
work.
need to do something,
Right.
right?
I can't sit at home.
Yeah.
So he helped start putting drops in. They did that in like 04, 05. And by 06, I was like, you need to buy a drill. You're out. You're a really hard working guy, but you're going to.
Working too hard for too little.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to get bigger. You need to get a drill. And they did that. Man, ever since that, they've really not been. They've worked in Oklahoma a little bit, Kansas, Nebraska. I know I got a buddy up in Iowa that's a contractor, and he calls every now and then. He's like, I'd like to get those boys back. And I was like, if they get a slow time, we'll find some, and they only like to do town work. So
Yeah.
I do call Tom up in Iowa every now and then and be like, hey, I got a little free time with these guys. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And they go up there and work. But, he's 19 years in the business, and he never had to bid any work.
Try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, that's a good point. So, obviously there's a ton of underground contractors.
Oh, yeah.
In general, I guess, would you say you're all pretty good at working together on things like that? Or
You try to do
or is it a
the
little more
courtesy
competitive?
call, background check a little bit. What do you know about these people? Sometimes the people that sell the equipment, I call them. Hey, what do you know about these guys? Are they good dudes? Do they show up every day?
Yeah.
Do they got good driving records? Their parents needs to be somewhat neat? All those kinds of things. Or do they got junky equipment?
Going to break down all the
Right.
time.
Or are we going to be running to the parts store because things break down all the time? Or are they good guys? If they give a good effort, that's a lot of it. But sometimes you don't know. I hired a couple this last year, and it's kind of like sometimes you hire an employee. I can run a backhoe. Okay. We had a guy come out, and he had a hard time getting the outriggers down. Okay, well, maybe it's a different type of backhoe. Just give them the benefit of the doubt, so to speak. But
Yeah.
a lot of times it's not that situation. They're applying for something that they can't really do, and sometimes I think there's some subs that probably say they can do some things that they necessarily can't once you get them out in the job site environment.
Well, so much of that is just like you just learn it on the job.
Yeah, I mean, like for us, I had a little bit of experience in the early '90s, and I started out at the bottom of, like, literally the bottom of it. I walk behind the plow or I turn the reel.
Yeah.
On a cat, and everybody's like, "What do you mean?" They don't. If you haven't ever seen how a plow train works, nobody's really going to understand it. But those that watch this that understand that, I was the gopher. I was the grunt. I was the guy that dug the cable out, took it out of the chute. I'm still that guy some days. It don't bug me to do any job, but there's certain positions. Like my partner, whenever I came here in '99, Richard was like, make sure we take care of that guy. And I was like, oh, okay. Why? He's like, he can run any piece of equipment. And, he ran a 4-lever backhoe, non-canopy, like 70. His dad was a plumber.
Yeah.
And for foot swing, there's not a lot of people out there that can run everything like he can on a backhoe.
Yeah.
Not to mention the other things that he can do. And he was a very key part, but that's stuff that, he was taught when he was 13.
Yeah.
Richard
Grew up doing it.
Right. Bob's kid, Richard, he started him out on a backhoe covering up, they did plumbing a lot of times, and he was covering up stuff at 11, 12 years old. Is that legal? If it's your own kid, I suppose it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they got away with it.
Yeah.
You can't do those things now.
Yeah. Times are a little different.
Times are changed a lot. But we don't get into deep sewer. We don't really do any sewer work or any of that kind of stuff. But you kind of trial and error. You ask around. You find out what you can about a sub, and referrals.
What does your training look like? Whether it's a new employee or a subcontractor.
If it's an employee that we hire, they start out just like I did at the bottom.
Work your way up.
Work your way up. You can
what you're
figure out pretty
capable of.
quick. Once you start figure eighting cable, we hire. I hire, if we got work real close to home, I hire some high school kids. I want them over 16. If they can work and their parents will let them work more than 40 hours, they sign a waiver.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's over 18, just for insurance reasons. We make them sign a waiver so that they don't drive stuff. Just safety sign.
Are your crews fairly consistent, or do the guys mix it up in terms of who they work together with?
No, they're pretty consistent. We got a couple key guys on each crew. We all have different titles. the vice president, and he's, head ditch digger, like I call him.
Yeah.
He runs a crew, and he was actually hired full time before I was. He was there, I think, in '97. When I come on in '99, I knew a lot of the guys that was there previously, and I didn't know this guy, and I always called him Two Beer Kenny because when he first came, he was a good kid. We did a job together and got done at the end of the day. I was like, "You gonna drink some beers?" And he's like, "Sure." So I went and bought a case of beer, and after about 2 beers, he's giggling. I was like, "You not drink?" He's like, "Not like you. Good God, you're a fish." I was like, "Well, I ran a bar for a while, so this thing's going to happen." But, training-wise, they started out at the bottom. I worked their way up. We've got guys that work for us now. They started that way. And, Woody, for example, or Vaughn, they started out turning the reel. Vaughn's one of our best backhoe operators we got. Woody, he can run a plow. Like Vaughn, they got more than one skill. We don't just hire somebody for one particular position. I hire them
do everything.
Yeah, I hire them in an entry-level position and try to work them into it. I have hired some people that say they've got backhoe experience because we've heard through the grapevine they do. Yeah. And if they do, then we hire them for that reason.
I assume there's probably, you've got the overall family environment of the company, but I'll bet there's a sub level of that in those crews as well.
Yeah, we try to create it. I mean, if you get out of line, or you're not pulling your fair share of weight,
the boys are going to keep you accountable.
Yeah. We got Woody. We call him Woody. Woody, named Brian, but he's been there 25 years. Much like I hired him actually after I came here. He left us just for a little bitty bit and came back to work. He's a Saudi vet, so I love veterans because thank you for the service to their country first and foremost, but also their work ethic is impressive. I mean, a lot of those guys, they got their schedule. Don't mess with their schedule.
Yeah.
It's like for Wood, I think he's up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I got another guy that was in Afghanistan. I think he goes to the gym at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's their clockwork.
Wow.
They are just every day. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Discipline and consistent.
Yeah. And they have a very, I wouldn't say thin line of patience, but if you get out of line, they're going to let you know.
Yeah.
And first time might be really nice. The second time, the younger generation, I call them, is they get a little tougher or they quit, one or the other.
Yeah.
Because it's not the easiest job to do. I mean, it's not a hard job to do. You just really, honestly, you got to.
Well, frankly, you're outside all the time in different places.
When somebody comes in and asks, what's the requirements here? And this is how hard up we are for labor. I say, you got a driver's license? Can you show up to work? Not just one day, but like 5 days in a row. We call that a weekday. I mean, week payroll.
Yeah.
Can you do that? And last but not least, we like to see pee in a cup and not piss hot.
Yeah.
If you got to be around a heavy equipment, for us, it's just a safety thing.
Yeah, it's
we
liability.
Can't have it.
You can't.
So, I mean, just tell, and unfortunately, sometimes we lose people that before we even get to the hiring process, they can't get past that part. And I know in Missouri here, it's legal to do that stuff. But, in Kansas, it's not. So, and on our job sites, it's not either. So,
yeah,
we don't really
you got to be able to function and run the equipment.
Right.
Obviously, most of what you do in the broadband industry, and BEAD, the BEAD topic is coming up, and the BABA compliance. How do you think that's going to affect your guys' role?
Everybody's chasing the BEAD money.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody, but a lot of clients are. A lot of people call us and say, "Hey, we want on your list." And it's like, "What list?" "We're going to get this BEAD money." "You are."
Yeah.
"How are you going to get it?" "Are you sure you're going to get it?" So for us, we take the clients that we can negotiate contracts with. Mm-hmm. For us, it's better to negotiate something than have to bid something.
Yeah.
I feel sorry because we've let some clients down. Is the way I feel. Like Rainbow, they've had some work and we were just too busy. We couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I had to tell them no. And it got to the point where they actually thought we were mad at them, and I was like, "I'm not mad at you. Just can't do it, man.
Yeah.
It stinks." But buying American first. We try to buy all of our products, whether it's one of those jobs or not. We try to do that all the time. I think it's good to try to keep your economy in the United States as local as you possibly can, if you can. Sometimes you got to go outsource. You know, a few years back when that tsunami hit Japan, there was a fiber shortage.
Yeah.
What happened here in COVID when they shut down the plants? There was a fiber shortage. We bought cable ahead of time with RDOF, thinking RDOF was coming down the pipeline. I canceled some of those jobs. Should have kept the order out because you know what happened was the price went crazy, inflation went crazy. You couldn't get certain products, and that was probably one of the biggest challenges in the last 2-3 years. Is the material going to be there? Is the client going to have the material, or are we providing it? You know, and you got to find your supplier to help you do that, or multiple suppliers is how we had to do it because everybody was in the same boat. I mean, if you wanted a Tyco closure, you know, not everybody carried them, and everybody got them in about the same time. Well, you get an allocation of 50, or you get an allocation of 100. So.
And that's where we come in. We're able to work with our manufacturers, and a lot of times, you know, we take care of the big customers that are having big projects, and we can schedule those.
Right.
Schedule those deliveries, and you know, may seem like a big huge PO on the front end, but we work with the customers to deliver that product. So, you know, they're in the loop. If there's another shortage and you don't have the product, you don't have a lot of work to do.
Well, but you know, certain clients plan for it. We got one. We're going to do a project later this year. I know they got all the cable. They've been buying handholds. They've been buying splice closures to prepare for it because when we did one of their grant jobs, we were waiting on stuff. And that stinks if from a contractor side, that stinks if you got to pull up your equipment and go someplace else rather than finish the job. It just costs you more to go back.
Added cost. Yep. Well, awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. I appreciate you coming in again, and hopefully you can find your truck out there in the snowbank. But
put it 4-wheel drive, lock them in, let's go.
We'll tow you out if we have to. So awesome.
I appreciate you having me. It's a fun time.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thanks again to Matt for you know, coming into town and being on the show with us. You know, Matt's a great dude, great personality. You know, he's always a lot of fun, but he can be serious when he needs to as well. And we just thanks again to him and Bob Hole Inc. for what they do, you know, with us and for a lot of our shared customers. So thanks again, Matt. You know, and as always, you know, if you need help with a project or looking for representation here in the Midwest, you know, check us out here at CBM. It's cbmrep.com. Thanks again for joining us on Power the Network. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, we'll see you next time.